Okay, so within people who become the only one, or brands that become the only one, is something that I have seen, which I think in your writing is what you have touched on in terms of kind of what I have seen, which is this idea of seriousness. And what do you mean by seriousness? And what does that mean to you? How does that manifest?
Whether it's in relationships, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whether it's in any domain, a fundamental truth about human beings is this: human beings get away with that which they can get away with. And wherever they don't have to own up to something, they won't own up to it. And it's very important for me to say at this juncture, having said that it isn't about owning up to it. It isn't about the fact that you should own up to it, or it's wrong that you didn't own up to it. That has nothing to do with anything. There's no right or wrong here. There's no morality, right? It's all about effects. Now, the effect of getting away with what you can get away with and not owning up to anything, the effect of that, the natural consequence of that, is that things begin to fall apart. When things begin to fall apart, then one begins to then feel the effect of the thing having fallen apart, and that forces him to then get more and more serious. So it isn't until one gets deadly serious and that he's all in, that he genuinely wants to, address the issues or whatever it may be, that things really get going. Everything else is just sort of, it's going through the motions. It really isn't genuine. And it's going through the motions because there really is no impetus to change. So man doesn't change until he's on the edge of a cliff with a tiger chasing him. That's just his nature.
And now, once that happens and you get serious, is when you can find the truth. Is that right?
Yes. When you're serious about something, then you tend to exhibit the behavior naturally, not by behavior modification, but naturally, to exhaust all options because you feel like you have no choice.
Now, is that necessarily when you reach this point of everything falling down? I can understand this in the context of like the individual life. I've even seen it in my own life where, you, as you said, you're up against the cliff, right? And you're staring death or whatever it is in the face. And this is not something that most people want to happen. It's just a circumstance that makes them feel this sense of seriousness, and then they have to discover the truth. It is absolutely necessary, right? By definition. Now,
yeah, I know what you're asking. Basically, you're saying, does everything have to fall apart? Well, it isn't. Exactly. It isn't about everything. It is what it's about is. It has to fall apart enough for it to have an impact upon you. And so there's always a threshold. And whatever that threshold is, it is. However high or low it is, it is. So there is a threshold beyond which it is no longer acceptable. So whenever that threshold is reached, that could be called everything, that could be called a little bit of a thing, that could be called a medium number of things. It doesn't matter. Once one's threshold of acceptability is reached, then he tends to take stock.
And obviously the same for business and brand, because these are just kind of abstractions of the individual self.
Yeah, the DNA of a brand is the DNA of the individual who begins the brand.
Right. What is a brand to you? What is a great brand to you, and what is a bad brand to you?
You know, honestly, I don't. I'm not a business guy. I've never really thought in terms of business terms with anything. You know, I look at things from a human perspective. So I don't really spend much time thinking about that because it doesn't interest me. I will only say that a human being who does not compromise in whatever his vision is, regardless of what the world may think, I think that person is going to create probably the ultimate brand.